With that, we wanted to wrap up the session here, the symposium, having a shucker and two chefs and a social media maven come and talk to you about some of the things that growers should be thinking about. All right, so Isabel.
Good day, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. I'm going to try to go over the southern oyster from a shucker's perspective. So I definitely did try to premise that as things I have noticed. I am here to represent a lot of shuckers, but I am not everyone. We all have our own opinions of what goes on. Just to kind of give you a little idea who I am. I am a Charleston native, born and raised on these waters. I had my first John boat when I was like 12, go out and steal crabs from crab pots. I know that's really bad now, but I mean, I used to get in a lot of trouble in the water, spend a lot of time out there. It's really one of my passions, one of my loves is being on here. I have a international business degree, hospitality management, culinary arts from Hotel School at Hague in Holland. And for the last 2 years, I've been competitively shucking. I've taken second place at the National Shucking Championship, currently hold that position now. I am 3-time South Carolina champion. I currently am the Virginia State champion, and in October, for 2 weeks, I will be in China, shucking 8 different cities over 8 days, representing the United States. So hopefully that gives me a little something to talk to you all about here today. What I was talking about here, this is Jay Gillette. He's from Superior Seafood in New Orleans, one of my best friends. He came up and did a little guest shucking with me there. He hadn't really seen oysters outside of what you all would have, those big rocks down in the Gulf, and working with our Chesapeake oysters we carry, and then seeing South Carolinas were kind of mind-blowing. But as you can see, I want to talk about how y'all do care about your product, and we do see the care and love in the oysters. The shells would tell us that up front right away. But it all boils down to the raw bar. The consumer is meeting me, meeting other shuckers, and if we're not up to date on the information, how are we going to combat the misconceptions? Down here in the South, we hear you can only eat oysters in the R months a lot. I've heard people say the South doesn't have oysters. It's definitely been brought to my attention a few times, especially if they say South Carolina doesn't have oysters. All oysters are Southern Gulf oysters. They really think of those dredged rocks that they've seen down in New Orleans, and we all know here that they're not all that way. And then the death of us all, I can only eat oysters from cold water. And I've been sitting in a raw bar. January 1st, I went out and I jumped in a folly, and that was freezing water. I hadn't seen anything that cold since I was in Holland. But everyone, when they say that, they're not talking about your current water temperature. They're saying they want something from the north. They want Canada, they want British Columbia, they want Massachusetts. And these are things I am daily trying to work people through. Understanding some of the challenges we have at raw bars, so that y'all know what you might be getting into as you approach these guys. For a long time, restaurants have used the bottom rung of the totem pole on the raw bar, or shucking. We have dishwashers, pre-shucking oysters that are going to be sold on the half shell in the back, and they go and they pull these off speed racks. They have squirt bottles with water and salt in it, and they shake it up and try to make them look all nice again. I've seen this happen. There are places here in Charleston that do it. Interns thrown out there with no experience or knowledge. Oysters are viewed as rocks and not animals, which I think is a big problem. Forcing oysters open with a hammer instead of a key, not knowing how to properly shuck, literally, again, someone just thrown in there and said, here's a knife, open this thing. And then, finding quality shuckers. They're really hard to find. Finding people that want to put their life behind a raw bar and dedicate themselves, and I always like to think of myself as a sommelier, but I'm not really at that level yet. But hopefully I will help grow more shuckers into that. So we really need to stop viewing the raw bar as a sideshow. Make it Palace de Garnier, as we all know in Paris. It's a ballet between the shucker and the knife. National championship stage there in Maryland. Luckily, the South Carolina flag gets represented each year. I win and go out there, so I'm really proud of that. One of the biggest issues shucking is ease and time. We've heard a couple people talk about that. So the boring sponge becomes a big issue. Shuckers are working in a high, fast-paced environment where they need precision accuracy. We all played that game surgery where we'd sit there and try to get the bones out without the buzzer going off. That's my job, and I have to do that at a very high pace. I'm looking for 2 dozen oysters shucked in 2 minutes, with plating 3 minutes. That's our standard. When we're outside of that, I got people coming to the raw bar and go, what's going on? I have to keep that pace all through happy hour with dozens and dozens and dozens coming at me for 3 hours, nonstop. Traying, shucking, it's not an easy thing to do. So we are definitely looking at the shells when they come in, which is something we talked about in that forum before. I think if I hit forward again, there's a little video of me shucking the single ladies from Frank Roberts. It's in a little faster motion, but I shuck them barehanded, You can see the ease of which I am able to open those, even though this is sped up at a little bit faster pace. Sorry about the video quality, I pulled it off another social media thing and put it up there. But this is the type of pace and speed we're trying to get to on the raw bar. So if your oysters are dealing with those things, I know it's hard financially, you want to sell them, like the boring sponge with a thinner shell, maybe holding back, not rushing your oysters out to the market could really help you down the road, because what we're able to do on the raw bar is going to be what people think of your oysters. So that'll, how to fix that. Meeting your shuckers, another thing we talked about a lot previously. We did hear that the shuckers shouldn't have to learn how to open oysters, but I know 4 main styles of shucking oysters: bill, hinge, the side inductor. The Europeans, they go through the back, kind of like a clam, and then they have a knife on the other side that they get the inductor muscle off of. Last night, Barrier Island said, hey, just off the side right here, this is where it's at. While you're meeting these guys, if you're noticing issues with your oysters, you deal with them all the time. Just giving them a little, like, hey, here's my trick, might actually help the shuckers perceive their oysters a little bit better. An example of inconsistencies at the raw bar. I worked with a grower, we had a pretty close relationship with them. I was ordering 3,000 oysters a week from them at 65 cents. That's $195 or $1,950 a week, equals $100,000 a year in sales I was giving these people. And at first, dealing with their inconsistencies, their salesperson was coming to me daily, hey, I'll swap these out, give you credit, this, that, and the other, and I was fine to work with this, as I figured, the farm's having a little issue here. But then people at the farm started falling off, and I started seeing different people, and I was like, I'm not dealing with this anymore, and I cut that off, and the farm didn't last too much longer, because when other restaurants came to me, and said they're having the same problem, I recommended them to other growers and suppliers. So that's where the money, actually in your pocket comes down to. You really need to stay up on the consistency and maybe say, all right, I'm not pushing this inferior product out because you don't want me to drop a $100,000 a year account. That would really hurt. That was just one of the 6 Fridays I had. Again, drop for inconsistencies. This is the simple waste log I use for Rappahannock Oyster Bar. I got our 3 varieties we carry on the raw bar: Rappahannock, Roach and Bow, Old Salts. I put the date that they go out, harvest location, harvest date, number of bad oysters, comments on the side when I see good or bad to help pinpoint that. At the bottom, I check myself opening oysters I had in-house during the week, what I ordered, bad, make sure that I'm within a nice margin of error there. This type of thing I mentioned, if you do have shuckers or raw bars or restaurants that you trust and you get to know, maybe coming up with a sheet like this that they can help you monitor and give you feedback could be beneficial. Our farm lives and dies by this. Our owners, our CEO, I get emails back within 5 minutes of sending this out, what's going on, and we're discussing things in more detail. I also spent a couple weeks going around to some of the bigger raw bars in Charleston, kind of get an idea of how the southern oyster is stacking up here. What you'll see is I pretty much took it from Virginia down to Texas. I called or went to restaurants. I mainly called the ones I knew they would know who I was when I walked in, and I could just, sneak in there. Main Street had 2 southern oysters, 5 northern oysters, pearls, like 2 to 5, 1 to 6. You kind of see that whole trend down there. Ordinary does a great job. They only do eastern oysters, and they try to keep it half southern, half northern. But a lot of times these southern oysters are primarily out of the Chesapeake Bay area. A lot of them were from Virginia. Rappahannock, my owners obviously are southern growers, so I am told only to buy oysters from south of Chesapeake Bay. We try to stay regional. I work with a lot of South Continental, North Carolina growers to try to keep them on a raw bar as well. So out of the 9 restaurants I visited, that's 65 different oysters out there being carried at different, essentially taps if you were to think of them in the beer industry. That's very important. About a third are being carried by our southern oysters. So I see a lot of potential growth there to, maybe bring that up to 50-50. That would help, sell a lot more of our oysters and get it out to the marketplace. And this is a big trend. There are more places opening up. There's 24 or more restaurants in Charleston, so you just hopefully can see the potential there. Questions I asked guests also over the last couple of weeks. I kind of posed the question to them, hey, if you're given a dozen oysters, you can only have one variety, same price, north or south, where would you go? And I had 83% of people say they'd go northeast. That's shocking. Most of the people that went to the south were just, a lot of them were locals, a lot of people wanted to support local, but again, we fell back into a lot of misconceptions of what the southern oyster is. I asked why. Consumers gave me, I didn't know that South had oysters. Northern oysters are better quality. I don't like dog oysters, no flavor too big. Guess all southern oysters were the same. Higher salinity, they actually think like the northern waters give higher salinity to their oysters. The cold water, oil spills is a big one. I still hear that for the Gulf about the oil spills and hurricanes. And then in recent years with our hurricanes coming off the South Carolina, North Carolina coastline and dumping all that fresh water, the 1,000-year flood, a lot of people are concerned about our water that way. Shuckers, when I talked to them at raw bars, I heard brittle shells for most of the triple oysters that are coming from the south. And they don't know how to deal with that. I grew up hen shucking. I didn't know how to go through a bill or a side until just a couple years ago. No one showed us other tricks to get around this. Even though the meat quality is still great, if they can't open an oyster properly, they don't have the knowledge, you're not going to sell your product. And then a lot of them just said the southern oysters aren't as refined to the palate as the northern oyster. A lot of them go PEI, which I just, it's a little overrated for me, but that's what everyone jumps to. I'm going PEI first, especially the Shuckers. And they're the ones talking to your customers. So if they're also having these misconceptions, that's a great reason to get out there, meet them, bring a few oysters, talk to these guys, share your story, like we tried to talk about here earlier. Other ways we can help educate Shuckers and communities. I was really impressed when I went to Wellfleet this year to compete up there. They only do Wellfleet oysters at their festival. It's a big festival. All the growers are there. They're all shucking and talking about their product. And there's some great entertainment and competitions like the shucking competition. But maybe getting together as the Georgia Oyster Grower Association and have your growers there, each with their own tents, and only do Georgia oysters and stuff. If you do that in Charleston, we got 5 million visitors a year. They're probably going to go out to that festival that's being held, and they're going to learn about your product. So I think that's another great way to help spread the word. The Virginia Oyster Trail does a great job. Urbana does this as well. I would say do blind tastings with people. If they say that southern oyster can't be as salty as a northern oyster, give them 2 oysters that stand up to each other and see what they say. Meet Shuckers, obviously, that's one of my biggest points here. Pamphlets, flyers from the farms. If you can't get out to everyone and meet everyone, but you are selling into markets a little bit out of your distance, like Tal did with Hollywood Oyster Company, maybe put them in the box. I love getting those things. I read through them. I won't actually get to work until I've read through them, even though I need to set up the raw bar and do whatever I need to do. It's very exciting to me. So finally, why are we investing time and money into these type of events? Remember, the Shuckers are your salesmen and women. This is your front line. Product knowledge is essential to sales. Customers respond to enthusiastic sales staff who are passionate about their product. They're going to be more passionate when they know you. You know, when they can tell your story, they know your story. And then consumers are more likely to trust people who are confident in what they're selling. So good product, shuck great. You all have very good product, but it really comes down to the final shuck. So really get out there, meet your oyster shuckers, and we can help turn the tides of a lot of these misconceptions. Are there any questions for me?
So how would a shucker take it if you come in with a box of oysters and a knife that's ideal for that oyster? Will they change the knife for you? Use a different knife for your product?
You are going to run into anyone in probably any industry that's, you know, felt too full of themselves to be humbled by that situation. But overall, I think a lot of shuckers would be very excited to see you and learn this trick, because it makes their job easier at the end of the day when they're grinding out. I did 1,400 oysters last November in 3 hours for half the hour by myself. I had a manager dumping oysters in front of me, a bartender training them up. That was miserable. If you told me a trick to get through those oysters where that wasn't as miserable as it was, and a knife to do it, I would do all of yours. I really would.
Because most of the time, the brittle shell is because we're using the wrong tool.
Yeah, I keep probably 4 oyster knives on my raw bar at all times. And I'm even with our more brittle triploids from our farms, I'll switch up the knife day to day even. So, yes.
What's the go-to education mechanism for training shuckers?
Right now, that's actually kind of my pet project. I'm trying to come up with a certification class for this. So you'll have level 1, 2, 3, and then a master level. And that would be everything from level 1, being able to spot the 5 varieties of true oysters just by the shell. Level 2 would then be able to, tell the difference between something from PEI, to Massachusetts sometime. Therefore, knowing flavor profiles. So I know like Julie Quad from In the Half Shell, she's also trying to work on things. There are people that are really interested in doing this. Right now, they're just internet source. So it's really for us to kind of take the lead where we can regionally, just working in small things and try to get that momentum going.
So we really need like a shucking university.
Yeah, I think we need a guild. I think we need, like 20 people to come together, put together a guild, have standards to move up. It will get tested in it. And it would even be as far as like shucking, so many oysters in a minute and keeping, the penalties down like you would in a competition, to show your skill, your mastery of your craft.
So there's no certification yet for
Not
shucking?
yet, no. That's why I push back when anyone tries to call me master shucker, even though there's probably about 20 people in the country, and I consider myself one of them that has a shot of winning the national championship. If any of them call themselves master shuckers, the majority of them don't know the difference between like a Kumamoto, an Olympia, or a Jimmy Scott. So that is definitely something why we need to get out there and start talking to these folks. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
How much of a problem do you see turn back hinge or inwardly curved hinge? Is that something you just deal with now, and are you seeing an increase in prevalence of that?
Where the hinge comes up and curves?
Well, I've seen two. I've seen where it turns back,
Yeah.
down, and also where it curves like where it goes forward.
I would say I'm limited with oysters I order now, but when I was running raw bars where I've ordered across the country, I would say probably about a third of them would come in that way and would get the banana shapes, and I'd have to roll the towel up and try to like support it while I shucked it so it wouldn't break in the middle. But overall, as an industry, I'm seeing it get better and it's not as frequent online. But I'm also probably really careful about people I work with as well. That's one thing that is continually happening. Why is it happening? My other shuckers are breaking 90% of these. I can't do it. I can't have that. I physically can't open every oyster here, and if anyone else can't get through this, unfortunately, I'll have to drop the oyster.
But you don't find that those variables are, it kind of, is it frustrating to the point where you're like willing to drop those customers, or you just feel like for me, just part of the business. I mean, if we want oysters that look like they came off of a printer, then we just all be selling Bolson Lays, but that's not where we're at, so you have to kind of.
Oddly enough, I've had that
accept it.
issue, mostly with both slaves more than any other, oyster up there.
Really?
Probably, yeah. I've had these really long, almost S shapes and curve overs and this whole gamut. I'm like, it's supposed to be this, best oyster out there. Like, I grabbed Frank Roberts or something and go, here's a fine example of what it should look like. Frank's in here, on one of my next 500 proof.